It started off with me feeling some symptoms, and I went from this healthy person that slowly started to deteriorate over the years. And it was a very, very long journey. Not even just in time, it was about 4.5 years for me, but those 4.5 years feel like 4.5 decades. Because as you know, time goes by very slow when you're dealing with all of these symptoms. If you're in bed all day and you're in a crash state, one day can literally feel like a week. 1 week can literally feel like a month. So time goes by very slow. It's like you're in a time chamber. The days go very slow, the hours go very slow, but the months go by very quickly when you're in that place where you're housebound or bedridden.
I can take on anything now in my life.
I'm now currently living a life in which I never thought I would be able to ever live again.
How's it going, Thrivers? In this video, I'm gonna be talking about how your body is smarter than you think, especially when it comes to recovering from CFS, long COVID, fibromyalgia, or any other hypersensitive nervous system issue. Now, I used to think it would be impossible for me to go from completely bedridden and debilitated with 50 plus symptoms at a time and going from that to being completely normal again. I thought I had lost that life. I thought I had lost the ability to ever enjoy life again and go out and run. There were times where I even forgot what it was like to walk. That's when I was bedridden for 8 months. And in this video, I'm gonna be sharing an analogy that may change your perspective on CFS and give you back control of your life. Now, prior to getting sick with CFS and all of these different symptoms and having my life stop dead in its track, I actually was quite a healthy person, at least on the outside. I was the athlete, I was a smart kid in the class, I was the kid with so much energy, he didn't know what to do with it. I was winning races at track and field, I was team captain of a lot of my sports. And so there was a time, and actually for most of my life leading up to CFS, I was quite a healthy person physically. Now, I didn't realize it, but growing up, I had a different mindset than a lot of other kids. I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm not bragging or anything like that. I'm just saying I thought differently, and I knew I thought differently because I had extremely high standards for myself. Not saying that other kids didn't have standards for themselves, but if I wasn't number one in the class for sports or school or grades, especially in my early years in elementary school, I saw that as basically a failure. It was a very all or nothing attitude. And so I was very capable of doing things growing up. I was very smart. I got good grades. I was very athletic. And so up until the time I started getting these symptoms and I really hit a wall and my life changed forever at 19 years old, when I first came down with all of these symptoms, I was very functional. And one can say that I was a very healthy individual. Maybe my lifestyle habits weren't so healthy in terms of how much I was working and all the supplements I was taking and skipping meals here and there, but I was capable. My body knew how to run on a treadmill for 30 minutes straight. My body knew how to lift 300 pounds off the ground. It knew how to put on muscle and, just move around and jump around and just push itself to the limits. So at one point, my output of energy was extremely high. And so when I got sick, it started off with me feeling some symptoms, and I went from this healthy person that slowly started to deteriorate over the years. And it was a very, very long journey. Not even just in time, it was about 4.5 years for me, but those 4.5 years feel like 4.5 decades. Because as you know, time goes by very slow when you're dealing with all of these symptoms. I mean, if you're in bed all day and you're in a crash state, one day can literally feel like a week. 1 week can literally feel like a month. So time goes by very slow. It's like you're in a time chamber. The days go very slow, the hours go very slow, but the months go by very quickly when you're in that place where you're housebound or bedridden, right? Essentially, my health, let's say it was up here before I got sick. Little by little, it started deteriorating and getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And I went from this, top tier athlete to being really sick, being really debilitated, to the point where I couldn't even really feed myself a lot of the days. I mean, there were times where I had to drink blended food that my dad would give me because even chewing food would take all the energy out of me. I couldn't walk, couldn't even take a shower. I had to get wiped down for months. And when I compared the two Miguels at the time, 1 year I was 17 years old, lifting heavy, really fit in the gym. I had my whole life ahead of me, fully functional. And then 2 years later, I was in bed many days. And a few years after that, I was just fully debilitated, couldn't even feed myself. And so for the longest time, I thought I have sunk so low into this quicksand situation. I don't know if I could ever get out. Like, how is my body gonna go from this state right now where I couldn't even lift my leg off the bed? I remember my leg would be itchy and reaching down to scratch it would cause pins and needles to go through my body. So I was like, how the heck am I gonna get out of this? Is it even possible, right? Because the chances of recovering is like the chances of me climbing Mount Everest tomorrow. That's how impossible this task seems. Because one, I didn't know what was going on. I kept getting worse and worse. It literally felt like I was dying a slow, painful death. And the doctors weren't really telling me what was going on. They couldn't explain why I was feeling the symptoms I was feeling. So if they couldn't explain it, they also didn't really have a solution for it, other than to throw medication at me and say, let's try this, let's try this. And I thought it was just a one-way ticket downhill. I thought if I got worse, then it's a new low and I wouldn't be able to come out of that. And if I got worse after that, then I wouldn't be able to come out of that. So I just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse to the point where I was in a hospital. But luckily that's where I met my doctor, and he taught me all these recovery principles. And that's exactly what I teach on this channel. He only taught me a fraction of the things I share on this channel, because a lot of it has come from experience in recovering myself, going through literally hundreds of flare-ups, helping hundreds of people all around the world recover from this using a proven recovery system that my team and I have created. And one thing I know for certain after having gone through this journey myself personally and working with all these different people from all around the world, from different backgrounds, from different sets of symptoms, different levels of severity, but all following the same system in order to get their lives back, I've come to learn that this one statement is true. If your body can get a lot worse, it can get a whole lot better. Meaning, if you were once a normal person, if you're watching this right now, I'm gonna take a wild guess and assume that you didn't have CFS your entire life. You didn't come out the womb and at 1 year old you had CFS. Maybe you got CFS at a very young age. Maybe you were 7 years old. Maybe you were 10. Maybe you were 15. Maybe you were 25 or even 40 years old when all of this hit you, right? Maybe you got long COVID and got a virus and that triggered it when you were 50 years old, right? Regardless of when you got it, there was a time in your life where you didn't have these symptoms, where your body was completely normal and you weren't dealing with all these symptoms and this hypersensitivity of the nervous system. So as long as you've had your tests and scans done and the doctors haven't found anything to clearly and definitively explain what's causing your symptoms or what's even going on, if they haven't found anything, then you can pretty much point the finger at the hypersensitive nervous system. Now, if you have gone from normal in your past to now very debilitated, well, the cool thing about neuroplasticity and the way the brain and the body works is it can also do the opposite. If you can get a whole lot worse, you can get a whole lot better, right? And once you realize what's really going on and what's causing these symptoms, you can start to put together these analogies. And this one analogy really helped me recover, especially when I learned this early on. This is when I was in a wheelchair in a hospital. I realized that your nervous system, the brain, it's kind of like a supercomputer, right? It's capable of all these magnificent processes within your body every single day, duplicating cells, fighting off viruses, making sure your lungs are breathing, making sure you're breaking down foods. There's a million different things going on in your body that you don't even realize that your brain and your body as a whole is doing to heal itself, even though it feels like you're breaking down every single day. And for me, it felt like I was dying a slow death, but my body was working very hard at keeping me alive. And our bodies are smarter than we think, especially our brains and our nervous system. It's a supercomputer. And so when my doctor told me that your nervous system and your brain, it's like a supercomputer, even some supercomputers, they get glitches. And what happens when there's a glitch? You start sending the wrong signals, the data gets all messed up, and things aren't functioning how they should be functioning. And he told me the reason I was feeling all these symptoms is because my brain is sending the wrong signals to my body. Or I wouldn't even say the wrong signals, it's the right signals, because it thinks I'm in danger, it thinks I'm gonna go out into the world and expose myself to all this different stress. So in order to keep me from going out into the world, exposing myself to that danger, it's gonna do anything it can to keep me put, to keep me safe in this one spot. And the only way it can keep me safe from going back out into the world is by giving me tons of debilitating symptoms. If I wanna go on the computer and Google symptoms or distract myself with TV shows, it's gonna give me headaches and brain fog and light sensitivity because it doesn't want me to go out there. It wants me to go into full hibernation mode so that it can protect me. So the brain and the nervous system, it's kind of like a supercomputer, and the software, that's what we need to fix. And that's something that the medical system can't really test for. It can't test how hypersensitive your nervous system is or how much of your nervous system is in this alarm state or this fight or flight state, right? That's something they can't really test for. And even if they can, most people don't have access to these kind of things. Like, I haven't found a test that shows how hypersensitive your nervous system is. There are stress tests. There are things that can check your heart rate, which could be an indicator of stress, but your actual nervous system sensitivity, they don't have something like that. So with this software glitch, you have to look at it that way. Your brain is just sending the wrong signals to your body. All these symptoms are coming from your brain. This is why your legs can hurt, your heart can skip, your lungs can feel heavy and chest feel heavy, but with all the tests they've ran, they haven't found anything. It's because the problem is not in your body. The problem is in the wiring, in the circuitry of your brain, right? So there's this analogy that I want you to think about. Your nervous system and your brain is like a supercomputer. In a computer, you have these different files, and your brain is fully capable of allowing you to feel zero symptoms, allowing you to go for a run, allowing you to go out and about and live a normal life of thriving health, but it just does not have access to it right now. It's not like all those things just got erased in your brain. It still remembers how to walk, it still remembers how to go to a concert, without triggering all these symptoms. It just doesn't have access to those right now. So I want you to imagine this. Let's say in the supercomputer, there are two different folders in terms of your nervous system, right? In one folder, that's thriving health. In the other folder, that is complete survival mode, okay? So you have thrival mode and survival mode. In one folder over here, in the thrival mode, that's when you can walk as far as you want. You can drive, you can do groceries, you can see your friends, you could eat whatever foods you want. You can live a life without limitations over here, right? And that's thriving health. That's where you don't have any more symptoms. You don't have to worry about crashing or how much activity you're doing. You're just living life in this folder over here. Now, this other folder over here inside the supercomputer in your brain, this folder over here is survival mode, okay? Over here, all it cares about is fight or flight mode, freeze mode, protection, survival, keep this person alive, reduce stress, keep them away from everything that could even potentially be danger. And any kind of stimulus, it could get to the point where your brain perceives that stimulus as danger, as life-threatening, which is why it wants to get rid of it, right? Which is why light is a sense. We can be hypersensitive to light. Sound is a sense. Your brain can interpret that sensation as danger. So whenever you hear sounds, you're gonna get severe pain or tinnitus, or your body's gonna be shaky and you're gonna feel overwhelmed because it's too much stimulation for your nervous system and your brain perceives it as a threat. Maybe with sight, too much movement, right? Too much movement can cause you to get migraines and headaches. Even touch. Touch can be registered as pain in your brain. Even taste. Different foods, different flavors, things that are spicy, that can cause your body to go into overdrive. So there's all these different things in this survival mode over here, the survival folder, and that's what your brain has access to right now because it's in this survival state. It doesn't know how to access this folder over here of thriving health. In fact, that folder is missing. Your brain doesn't even know where it is. Over here, thrival mode, that's located in your logical centers, in your logical brain. Over here, very emotional, your amygdala, your fight or flight brain. Okay, so all it thinks about is survival. So to a normal person, they have access to both of these folders, thrival mode and survival mode, and all the folders within those folders. Because as you know, in computers, you could have a master folder, and within that folder, there's different folders, there's subfolders. And within those subfolders, there's all these different commands and processes and things like that. So think of all the good emotions over here for thrival mode, and all the negative, less enjoyable emotions and sensations over here. A normal person has access to both of those, but for someone with CFS and a hypersensitive nervous system, really only have access to this over here, or at least a majority of what you have access to is over here. So it's like 90 to 95% survival mode and maybe 5% thrival mode. Because I remember there were times when I was in the hospital and, some days my friend would crack a joke and I'd laugh a little bit, right? Or I'd remember a happy time and I could almost feel like I was there if I meditated deep enough. I could kind of escape the moment. And so as you learn to recalibrate your nervous system and get out of the survival mode, you're starting to access this folder over here. And you actually do that through brain retraining. So with brain retraining and constantly reminding yourself that, hey, this is just a hypersensitive nervous system, as you're calming down the emotions, one after another instance of brain retraining, which only takes a couple seconds, and you can watch my video up here to dive deeper into brain retraining, because I explain brain retraining in depth. As you're chipping away at this folder over here, eventually it starts to unlock and you get access to more folders and more folders and more folders until your brain starts to be able to access living a normal life again, being able to walk down the street without flaring up with symptoms, being able to see your friends without flaring up with symptoms, being able to work a job and add on more stress. So the cool thing is, as you recover, you can actually start to build new folders here, which is like new ways of living, new perspectives on life. Now, when challenges arise in my life, I see that as an opportunity for growth. But also, let's say there's a challenge that I know I'm putting my health at risk. I'm not going to do it. Right? I know how to pull back and take my foot off the gas pedal. I don't just push through everything like I used to. And those are some new folders I've installed into this software. So basically, your body, your brain, your nervous system is a lot smarter than you think. And just because you may be debilitated now doesn't mean you're going to be debilitated forever. Because your brain, it knows how to do these things. It knows how to be normal. It just does not have access to those folders. But for me, when I realized this, it just made perfect sense. And it was very empowering and freeing to know that I had all those things inside me. I had thriving health within. I just needed to unlock it again. It's kind of like in the movie The Matrix. I'm not sure if you watched that, but if you have, should probably watch it. It's a really good movie. There's a lot of analogies that you can tie into recovery. Of course, if you can watch it. If you're a little bit more functional, it is a pretty intense movie, but it's kind of like when they upload all of these files into Neo's brain and all of a sudden he has these new different skills. Like he didn't know karate 1 minute. They uploaded the software to his brain. All of a sudden he was like a karate master. So now with CFS, we are updating your software. Think about it as you're upgrading to the 2.0 version of yourself. But in order to do that, you have to get rid of a lot of the old clutter, all the old files. Not all of them, but a lot of the files that weren't serving you and that were causing your processors to run slow. Essentially, this is like a massive software update, not just for your body, but for your life. And this ties into so many other videos I made talking about how CFS can be one of the best things that ever happens to you. And you don't realize that until you get to the other side. Obviously, when you're in it, you're not going to see the benefits in it, but just look at every recovery story online. Look at all the people who were hospitalized and bedridden and just felt like they were robbed of their livelihood and their life. Once they recovered, they saw that this was an opportunity to recreate who they are as a person and go from the 1.0 version of themselves to the 2.0 version of themselves. So just understand that your brain is smarter than you think. It remembers. I remember the first time I drove after not touching my car for 9 months. I remembered all the roads. I remembered how to put the car in drive, how to signal, how to shoulder check, how to parallel park. It's like my brain remembered all the roads. Like, even though I never thought I'd drive again, and I forgot what it was like to drive because I was in such a hypersensitive state in the survival mode, once I came out of that, all these other skills came back. You don't lose it all and have to start from scratch. Those things come back because your brain remembers these things. Your brain stores them, and it stores them in these separate folders. It compartmentalizes them. The only thing is you don't have access to all of that right now, but that's why you start chipping away. And as you get better and better, as you start adding on more capacity, you're going to start to get your life back little by little. But just remember that no matter how bad things are, no matter how hopeless it seems, there is a part of your brain where thriving health is, where your brain and your body knows how to be normal again. And in fact, better than you were before. Because like we said, going through this and learning what not to do in life and what not to do to put you in the situation in the first place, that's going to cause you to level up as a person and essentially upgrade your software. So now I can confidently say that I am more anti-fragile than I ever was before. I can handle way more stress than I used to. And my life is actually a lot more productive than it used to be, but a lot more sustainable. I know I'm never going to crash from CFS again. And if I did, it will never be to the level it was before because I know exactly what to do to get out of this. And if you recover once and you know exactly why you recover, you can never get stuck and get to that same place you were before. You can never go back to Mariana's Trench because you know the way out, because you know what to look for and what to avoid to get there. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that analogy makes sense. It's something that really helped me change my perspective on this and really seeing and believing that, okay, just because I'm not able to function right now and I can't run and I can't lift weights doesn't mean that my brain completely forgot how to do that, because there was a time in my life where I did that. I may not be able to do it right now, but there will be a time in the blink of an eye when I'm all good to go and I have thriving health. So if you did need some help upgrading your software or getting access to that folder of thriving health, that's exactly what we help people with through our recovery system that we created. It's kind of like unlocking a combination lock. You have to do things in a certain order. I mean, you could be doing the right things, but if you do them in the wrong order, then it may not be as effective. So we can help you figure out what that combination lock looks like for you. What are the best actions to take for your specific journey? Because we help people create personalized plans based on where they're at, based on their symptoms, activity levels, their roadblocks, even their history. If you did want extra help, you can click the link down below and apply to see if you're a good fit to work with us. We obviously want to make sure you don't have any other health issues going on. Always remember that you are a thriver and you are just one mind shift away from living life with thriving health. I'll see you in the next video.
I'd say that CFS recovery is absolutely the real deal.
I actually felt like somebody had cancer.